The moment I moved into the quiet cul-de-sac of Maple Hollow, I knew I was walking into enemy territory. The neighborhood was picture-perfect manicured lawns, matching mailboxes, and a weird silence that lingered even when the sun was out. It was the kind of place where everyone waved politely, but watched you too long from their windows. I hadn't even unpacked my boxes before I met her, HOA President Linda Cartwright. Better known behind closed doors as Karen of the cul-de-sac. She strutted up my driveway in white sneakers that had never touched dirt. Clipboard in hand, her lips pursed like she'd just swallowed a lemon. "You must be Mr. Carson," she said, eyeing my truck and the large metal tool shed I'd just had delivered. "We have rules here." That was how she greeted me. "A welcome pie, no neighborly small talk, just rules." And she was about to learn I wasn't the kind of man who bent easily. I bought this house with cash after retiring from 20 years in military engineering. I'd seen enough desert sand and conflict to last a lifetime. All I wanted now was peace, a workshop to tinker in, and a dog named Duke who didn't care about bylaws. But Linda wasn't having it. The very next morning, I found my mailbox stuffed with citations and proper vehicle storage. My truck was in the driveway. Unauthorized structure, the still unassembled shed. Lawn not yet landscaped. I'd been there less than 24 hours. She even complained that Duke barked too loudly at night. I called the HOA office. But every time I tried to reason with them, I was met with robotic apologies and veiled threats about mounting fines. Linda had the board in her pocket, and the neighbors were too scared to speak up. I did my research. Turns out, the HOA had overstepped its boundaries dozens of times. I read stories about homeowners bullied into tearing down swing sets, forced to repaint their houses, even fined for planting the wrong color flowers. So I stopped playing defense. The first thing I did was read every inch of the HOA charter, line by legal line. What I found were contradictions, illegal enforcement methods, and expired clauses. Then I submitted an official complaint to the county clerk's office and hired a real state attorney to double-check my findings. I made copies of every violation Linda had issued and highlighted the ones that had no legal standing. I also installed cameras around my property, not just for security, but to document every visit Linda made, and she made plenty. Linda showed up every other day, snapping photos, talking to Duke like he was a criminal, and even going through my trash once caught on camera, of course. She left notes on my door warning me that further non-compliance would result in escalated measures. I smiled and added each one to my growing legal file. Then came the turning point. One weekend, I invited a few old Army buddies over to help me finally assemble the shed. We worked fast, and by Sunday night, the structure stood proud at the edge of my property, painted in a matte desert tan. Monday morning, I woke up to find red tape wrapped around it like some crime scene, along with a cease and desist order. From the HOA, that was Linda's mistake. She'd filed the order under a non-existent clause. I forwarded the evidence to my lawyer, who filed an official complaint with the state. 2 days later, Linda got a letter informing her she was under investigation for abuse of authority and harassment. But I wasn't finished. Using public records and some well-placed FOIA requests, I discovered that Linda had quietly approved landscaping, reimbursements for herself, thousands of dollars for community beautification that only ever improved her own backyard. I compiled the data, attached it to a formal whistleblower report, and mailed copies to the HOA board, the county commissioner, and our local news channel. And just to twist the knife, I made sure to upload a detailed YouTube video titled "When HOA Karen Messed with the Wrong Neighbor," complete with clips of her harassment, copies of the forged citations, and her angry rants captured by my door camera. Within a week, the entire neighborhood was buzzing. I started getting quiet nods of approval, whispered thank yous from neighbors too scared to go public. Someone even left a plate of brownies on my porch with a note, "You're doing the Lord's work?" By the end of the month, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. Asterisk Linda didn't see it coming. The board removed her as president and placed her under audit. Several homeowners banded together to demand a vote on reducing the HOA's authority. The one silent community suddenly had a voice. And me. I mowed my lawn that week wearing a tank top that read, HOA hunter Linda moved out 2 months later. She didn't even sell the house, just abandoned it, left the blinds shut, and the yard to rot. Duke peed on her lawn every morning for a week. It was the most peace I'd had since moving in. But the real victory wasn't just getting rid of her. It was watching the neighborhood come alive again. Kids started playing in front yards without fear of violations. People painted there, homes in real colors. One guy even parked his boat in his driveway, and nobody said a word. I eventually joined the HOA board myself, not because I wanted power, to make sure no one ever abused it again. They say some people move to peaceful neighborhoods to get away from conflict. Me, I brought peace through conflict. All it took was one entitled Karen, one stack of citations, and one very patient, very prepared neighbor who didn't back down. Asterisk, because the truth is when HOA Karen messes with the wrong neighbor, she doesn't just lose her clipboard, she loses everything. Asterisk.